What's up, you guys? It's VDX. Tekken just got its September 2025 update, and it's a very small one. And people are very frustrated. Now, I know the Tekken community has a reputation online for always being frustrated no matter what the dev team does. I think some of it is justified. Some of it may be extreme, but I want to give my opinions on it because the patch is so small. There's really not much to talk about. I figure I'd take this time to answer a bunch of questions that I've gotten frequently about how the dev team is doing their balancing and what my thoughts are on it. So let's get to it. Luckily, the patch part is really small. They basically fixed a bunch of strings and moves that have issues. So what does that mean? A bunch of big moves would hit behind your character randomly, so they took that out. And then a bunch of multi-hit strings, like Zafina has like a left kick into a right claw, or a right click into a left claw, and the second hit would whiff even though the first hit connected. So they fixed a bunch of interactions like that to just make the moves behave as you would expect. And that's pretty much it, right? There's not many other changes. If you play a specific character and you're curious, you can check out the patch notes. I'll link them below. What people are more interested in is the graphical changes made to the game and how it feels like the dev team isn't putting their effort in the right place. And if you don't know what happened, this is the patch that fixed the swimsuits. In 2.04, they released a swimsuit pack, and people complained on Twitter that the characters all look the same proportionally. They found out it was actually a bug in the implementation. So you can see in this GIF, which is the correct way to pronounce that, by the way, that they have now adjusted the bust sizes of the various women to account for their original designs, right? Fixing the technical error. There was also a really funny bug where Xiao Yu's chest would just disappear. It would go invisible. So they fixed that as well. You can see the difference again in this GIF. They also talked about adjusting Asuka's neck, which has been a huge complaint in the game since launch. Where is her neck? This is coming in two phases. The first phase, which we see right now, is shrinking her shoulders and I think adjusting other parts of her body just to make her neck more prominent. But they're going to do a secondary patch where they actually elongate her neck, from what I understand. So these are changes people have complained about, and they're being adjusted, which I think in a vacuum is a good thing. But understandably, people are upset that these are the changes we've gotten. In a post-Season 2 world where pros, casuals, and mid-level players are all very upset with the state of the game, why are they spending their money on doing this? Where are the balance changes? And you can see it here. Quote retweet from JFrame says, "Time and workforce so wisely spent. Amazing. Just what everybody needed and asked for. It's been 5 months after the last disappointing patch, and now the waiting time starts anew." And a lot of people are saying the same thing. Other people are saying, people complain about the models, the devs listened, so why are you dragging it? Is there anything that will make you guys happy? My take on it is, first, the team that works on graphics is probably not the same team that's doing balance changes, right? So are costumes a top priority? Probably not, but they probably have these teams structured in advance, and you can't throw balance people into graphical work just in the same way that you couldn't, what are you going to do? Lay off the graphical workers until the game is fixed from a game design standpoint? I think the way the teams are structured, if I had to guess, because I don't know, they probably just had this planned and the teams are working in parallel, and this is just what is available next, right? I don't think it would make sense to end the work of the graphical team until the balance team finishes things. That said, this is a terrible look, okay? I'm not saying this is a good idea. This is just probably what happened. But this is a bad look because the game is in such a sorry state. So where are the balance changes? Why aren't we getting actual fixes that people are complaining about? Well, the dev team has stated that they want a stable version of the game for the pro scene. And on paper, in a vacuum, I actually agree with that. I grew up playing Super Smash Bros. Melee, a game that didn't have many patches, just like the European release, and then later down the line, Universal Controller fix. But the point is, when you give high-level players a steady version of the game to just sit and play, they get to figure out some really cool interactions, really cool optimizations, and the game develops. If you just change the frame data every patch, then they're stuck learning that surface level stuff and never really getting into the higher level plays. So on paper, I agree with this, but it doesn't account for how bad Season 2's launch was. And why was Season 2's launch so bad? Season 2's launch was so bad because they spent so much time not patching the game, again, to stabilize the pro play. And then in the off season, from January to March, before the release in April, They also didn't release balance patches. So what are we doing? We're supposed to stabilize, but if you want to actually fix the game, you're going to have to release it so that the players can play test it at some point, right? That's where I think the disconnect is. We had all this time where people were sitting on Season 1 Dragunov, Season 1 Jin, these characters terrorizing everybody and terrorizing pro play, and they were just waiting because the pros need a stable game. Then the offseason comes and there's still no changes. And in the offseason, they talked about it too. In March, there was the Japanese Master Cup and then the European Tekken Cup. And they didn't release existing balance changes they had in their hands because they wanted those tournaments to stay stable. Again, on paper, I agree, but when you're doing 1,500 changes and you're kind of selling Season 2 as this big, good overhaul with defensive changes that people should be excited about, you can't kind of hold it without testing, in my opinion. So the problem is they wanted the best of both worlds. They wanted this stable pro play and then this gigantic Season 2 drop that everybody would love. But you can't do that without enough testing. So now we're in a situation where they have to recover from that. And the lack of changes feels frustrating, right? Now, in the debate of whether the pro experience should be prioritized versus the casual experience in the first place, is this even a reasonable idea? I think it is. I think that the pro players are going to feel the small changes more because they understand and experience more of the game, right? I'm not saying their opinion is more important from like a sales standpoint or from a philosophy of the game standpoint. I just think they will feel the changes more because they're working on the game at a deeper level. It's their profession. They have the time and the money to do so. I also think that it's possible to make a game that's really interesting at a pro level and still engaging at a casual level. I think Smash is the perfect example of this, right? Like, even if you were to give complete casuals Super Smash Bros. Melee, I think you would have fun with it, even if your character isn't viable, because it's a casual level. There's still a lot to be done. So I think, again, philosophy is fine, but not patching in the offseason is a big issue. And now you might wonder, we have a couple months until the Tekken World Tour Finals. Wouldn't this be a good time to actually do some patching? I don't know if 2 months is enough time for the pros to relearn the game. So yes, my opinion is a little pro skewed in that sense, but that's coming from the idea that all of this could have been fixed if we take January to March to just release a bunch of changes, test like pre-season 3, and then release the game, because your most diehard fans will be satisfied in the preseason, and then the fans that you're trying to attract, the tourists, the casuals who want to revisit Tekken in a new season, will still be fresh. They won't know what all the changes are. I think it's a no-brainer strategy, right? You can let me know in the comments if you think there's a reason why off-season patching wouldn't work. But that pretty much covers my points. I think that, yes, it looks really bad releasing a swimsuit patch as the game feels like it's on fire, right? Some people will disagree and think that's a bit dramatic, but I think if you've been playing the game very regularly, especially in ranked, and you do a bunch of labbing and studying of the game does not feel very good in the first to two. So fixing that should be a higher priority, but the dev team is standing by their philosophy amidst a tough release. A tough release is a bad way to put it. It was a really bad release, what Season 2 was. So from here, the solution, there's no good one. It shouldn't have been, Season 2 shouldn't have been released like that. But if I were in charge, my opinion, again, I don't have the inner workings of actually doing game development, so this is very much an armchair opinion, okay? But people are curious about my opinion, so I'll give it. It's that I think we just have to do a big preseason, and then we stabilize the patches and just do this minimalistic approach during the pro season. I actually really like what Street Fighter has done with their patching. I know a lot of Street Fighter players complain the game is stale, but as someone who visits it really sweatily periodically, it's nice to come back to the game and know that my labbing hasn't been undone. I've talked about that patching a game in such drastic ways, a fighting game specifically, where you have to lab the work, feels like getting your save deleted in like an RPG. You do all this grinding and leveling up to get stronger and more powerful through your knowledge and hard work, and when they change the frames and change the strings and change the characters themselves, it feels like your save is getting deleted. So that's my take. I've been yapping for about 10 minutes. If you stuck around this long, thank you so much. Let me know in the comments if you did. And hopefully the next few patches are a bit bigger. Hopefully they find a way to strike that balance between pros and casuals, because I think as noble of an attempt as it is, The mark is being missed on execution. But at least the swimsuits look better. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Leave a like and a comment if you did. Subscribe for more, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.